I did 6 straight nights in Atlanta, fully improvised each night, an hour, 6 nights in a row. By Saturday, I was so comfortable on stage with nothing and just going up with the idea that I was like, I'm funny. I wouldn't be in this job. I wouldn't be able to buy groceries if I wasn't funny.
Right.
I am now able to get past the idea, but am I funny? Where do I stand in this business? I put out a special, but only so many people saw it, and it didn't move the needle the way I thought it would. And I've acted in stuff, and I thought that would make me America's darling. Here's this new guy. You know, all of the things that we sort of fantasize about in our head. This moment in time in Atlanta doing this made me go, fuck all of your hopes and dreams about what you think this is, and have the most joy in your life knowing you are funny.
Yeah.
Why can't that be enough? It's brought me paychecks.
Yeah.
So why don't we just be grateful for that?
It's this thing that you have with your comedy that I study jokes. I'm obsessed with jokes. This whole show's about jokes. I don't know where the jokes begin and end in the special. And
nice.
so in that, I love that.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's kind of like this thing where I don't even understand the magic of it.
Yeah. Well, first off, I appreciate you saying that, because that is kind of the target I'm aiming for. Because that's what I like being at. When I'm in the audience, I like being at the confusion. I like being at not knowing where it's going. I think it's why I like jam bands and like jazz. I like being not knowing this take of the song. You know, I'm drawn to that. But for me, it's literally just finding the thing that makes me laugh. And for better or worse, I don't see myself as a writer.
Right.
I see myself as, I think I am just naturally a performer.
Yeah.
And I think because of that performance, I can sell, I feel like, something in a different way. And if I tried to specifically sit down and write it, and sometimes I do, and sometimes that works, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's my strength. I think when I play the thing that is my strength is I like to work with something like that and just go, I will stand here and I will fail in front of so many audiences until that one time that I'm like, there, more people got that, and the words that I used to get us to that point were this, and so that's what I'll do every time. So my writing comes from the moment of seeing what makes the audience twitch, as opposed to me sitting down and trying to find it when it's just my brain. I kind of am already, I know that's what we do with jokes anyways. We sort of for taste testing them all the time, but mine start at, I don't have a lot to work with. Yeah. And so in front of you, I'm going to try to find it. And because that's how I find a joke, I then just go, well, there were 200 people here tonight, and I'm pretty sure 150 really liked that joke. Yeah. So it's got to be in the ballpark. I've got to be close.
No, absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's weirdly, like, that's what I love about it. It's just what's happening in the room. And I feel like you go to that to the hilt. Like you go to the farthest extent of that.
I that's what I enjoy the most. Yeah. I enjoy the not looking how we got here or looking where this is going to go, but on any given night, whether it's like a coffee shop and I'm just trying to get some repetition in and I'm doing 15 or something, or even like a club that maybe holds 200 or 300 people, I really like being like, this is the room we are in right now, and we are the team that is on the field. Yeah. This is it. This is right now. And I might be hoping that this act is coming together and sculpting something, but if anything happens in this room that is even slightly something that we can play with or do, I will invest everything into it to explore and go off on it and see if there's any comedy there, almost to prove to the crowd, like, I'm here. I'm not absent.
And that's why it's funny, because I think sometimes this gets lost in translation, this discussion of like, hey, could you not video my performance?
I know.
It's the reason is not because I want to police you from doing blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, literally your version on your phone can never capture what we are all experiencing right now.
Yes. It can't get the whole set.
You can't get the whole thing.
Yeah.
And as a result, you're missing out on, like, 4 of 4 out of 5 senses.
Yeah.
And even a sixth sense, which would be like magic.
Right.
And like transcendence.
Yeah. And it's not going to come through on the camera of the phone.
No, and then weirdly, like people have the ability to like watch that and just be judgmental of the other people experiencing the thing.
The thing they weren't even at. And also it doesn't give us the space to, I mean, that space is so sacred, but to me it's like you're now allowing, outside of shooting a special, which is just going to be naturally the space that the finish line in a way. But like if someone puts it on their phone and then decides to put it out, it's like you've let someone into the clubhouse that the rest of us did not approve. And you thought you were so important that you should be allowed to do it.
Yeah.
Where if I walked out with my cell phone and I just put it over here on the side and I go, guys, I know I didn't announce this, but I'm going to live stream this.
Yeah.
An audience would go, well, I mean, all right. I thought I could have stayed at home and just got on Instagram and paid nothing and kind of seen that angle. And you're like, yeah, like this is for this moment in time. And we are the ones that are here to experience it. So why don't we say, oh, the ticket price is the ticket price and the seats are the seat and the venue is the venue, because this is the special hour and a half that we're going to spend together and make it an event as opposed to something that can live digitally.
I did a show the other night at the Bell House in Brooklyn, which I love.
Yeah, I love that place.
And it was like someone was videoing. I could see, you could see the lenses. Just stick right out.
Yeah.
You're like, hey, could you not video
this? There's a little reflection off the light.
There's a little reflection of the light. And it's like, could you not video this? And then I literally explained, like, I'm actually talking right now. I'm making jokes about a thing that I'll probably never make jokes about again.
Yeah.
And because it's personal in my life. And it's like, I don't want to share with everybody. I want to share with you.
With you, yeah.
I want to share with you right now, but like probably no one ever again.
Yeah.
And like that's special.
Yeah.
And I feel like also like one of the things about the new special that I feel like does and is part of what people love about stand-up and live performance is like it feels dangerous, like when you're talking about like hypotheticals of you cheating on your wife.
Right.
And I think the reason it feels dangerous is because like you probably do 10 minutes on it at least.
Right.
Like if I was gonna cheat on my wife after the show, someone might come up to me or whatever. You go there, all these, it's super funny, but it's like of course I think the subtext of that whole thing is like, oh, he's talking about like the taboo of his life.
Yeah.
That would be the thing that would be like explosive and incendiary, probably.
Yeah.
Did you, when you wrote that bit, were you like mentioning your wife? Like, so I wrote this bit. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Well, it went beyond that bit. I mean, it was kind of, I imagine you're in the same position where like every now and again, the wife shows up to be like, I'll watch the show. I'll see it. But it's not like, that the period of our lives where they were there all the time is like, well, naturally you're going to go. I got it. Let me know when you want me to come back. I'm not going to come to every show.
Totally.
It did get to a point where I was working on it. And then when it all was really coming together and I was opening up about sex stuff and even that, like the cheating thing, I was like, I went home and I was like, you're a really big part of this show. It wasn't planned. I go, but it's so just kind of where it ended up. And she goes, well, is it like bad? I was like, I think she immediately went to that, like, am I in the position of my wife? And I was like, not really. I think it's pretty fair. I was like, but it is also jokes. And also her friends came with her to the show and she was like, every time you did a joke, they would kind of look at me. And if I was laughing, they would go, okay, good, we approve of it. But her friends were also like, hey, just so you know, your wife laughed at all of the jokes.
Yeah.
And I go, I think it's because it's not so fun to go on stage. Maybe it can be to go on stage and just go, I got to let you guys know, I got really lucky. Things are great. And my wife is super supportive and she has been the whole time.
Yes.
Anyways, here's what else is going on. Yeah. Instead, it's like, well, why don't we talk about the things that are more taboo? And there is a vulnerability to where no matter how good our relationship is going, sex is always going to exist in this space of a discussion of what we both think it is or what we want out of it. Even when we're on the same page, it's going to be a different place. So it's like, that's the kind of stuff I think the audience relates to more so than, well, yeah, even if it is going great, tell me things that are how are you an asshole in your marriage? How are you a good guy in your marriage? So
yeah, I always think it's like the audience wants to know what's wrong much more than they want to know what's right.
Yeah, because I think that's what they relate to, and then they go, oh, good, all right, I feel that way too, and now I can kind of see it through that lens, and that makes me feel better about my own insecurity. And I found that it's the easiest place to get to if you really just say the truth about your vulnerabilities and your insecurities. An audience immediately would be like, yeah, no, me too. I know you think that your life is so bizarre and your secrets are your own, but the moment you say a secret that you think no one else has, you realize the whole theater's like, no, all of us do that.
No, completely. Like, oh, and I think I think that this is something I think this is something you and I share in common, which is like neither of us are the quintessential edgy comedians, right? Like
right.
That's a whole bucket.
No one's coming to us for that. Yeah.
There's a whole bucket of comedians who's just like, they say the things that no one will say. And a lot of times with those people, you're like, is it really hard to say this? Or is it just you're saying it because you're technically not supposed to say it? And is that hard if your persona is the iconoclastic person?
Yeah.
But then you have the other version, which is like, which is like the person who never offends anyone or ever says anything that might be objectionable in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it's a little bit boring, and it's a little bit, it's not vulnerable, and it's not risky in any way.
Yeah.
And I feel like you and I fall in a similar bucket, which is like, people might not realize that there's risk to what we're saying, but there actually is considerable risk in our lives.
Yeah. And also just telling the sort of truth of an opinion or a situation, and also know that opinion doesn't have to, the content and the opinion don't have to exist in some way where the audience feels like we're trying to push them away to see if we can get them back. We're all fully capable of trying to do that, but instead of, even my religious jokes in this special, people were like, oh, that's, that can be a tough topic. And I go, I guess if you see it as a tough topic, I don't, because if you're deeply religious, I feel like you should still be able to laugh at my opinion. I shouldn't have affected you in any way.
Right. Like you have a joke that made me laugh out loud alone, which is just like you're like about people going to church. Like, you do that for real? You still do that? Yeah. And it's so like patronizing, but also like what you're saying, which is like, yeah, if you go to church and your faith is strong, you're not going to be affected by Rory Scovel's like random thing that you're throwing off, making fun of people going to church. If that shakes you, that's your problem.
Exactly. Yes. And I think that's why people go, oh, it's a risque kind of thing. I'm like, I don't know. I think the people that don't go will be like, oh, that's funny. And then the people that do go will be like, there are people that leave comments or message me to say, I am a devout Catholic, and I laughed at the whole thing. Yeah. And I go, and that's kind of what I hope. I'm not trying to tell you to stop. I can't tell you the jokes from a perspective of a guy who goes to church and thinks that I should. I can only tell you the jokes from a guy who doesn't go to church and maybe wants people to maybe stop telling me I should. And the only way I can fight fire in this situation is with a little bit of fire back at you to go, yeah, you're aggressive towards me with the religion, but not all of you are. So let me make a point, but I'll do it in a way where it's like, oh, if you're aggressive, I think I made my point. And if you're not that aggressive, you'll go, I don't know. He wasn't that preachy,
Yeah. Do you have it with like, because you're from South Carolina, South Carolinians?
South Carolinians.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Do your fellow South Carolinians get upset when you visit home or whatever about like religious stuff like that?
The last show of this tour was in my hometown, and I did
in Charleston.
I did in Greenville.
Oh, Greenville.
But I did Charleston, and then I went to Greenville. So in both back-to-back nights, I did the special as it's out there, and they were into it. The laughs were exactly what I would get, anywhere else.
Yeah.
And I think it's because it could be because I'm at a point now where people maybe aren't shocked by that being my content. Like,
right.
We know what he'll talk about, whether we agree or disagree. So we bought the ticket. So if he goes into a sex joke or talks about drugs or even a little bit of politics, like, it's not out of left field. He's been doing that the whole 20 years, kind of thing. So,
do you ever, with like kids you grew up with, for example, like, I'm sure some of them go to church.
Oh, I think a lot of the people that are especially in Greenville that were in that audience, I'm pretty sure a lot of them go to church. And
they just laugh off that idea.
I think they laugh it off.
They're like, yeah, that's Rory. That's what he's like.
Yeah.
That's how he views what we do.
Yeah, exactly.
And how we view what he does is kind of ridiculous too.
Yeah.
So you started painting.
Yeah,
You paint professionally now.
Yeah.
These paintings are gorgeous, and and they're for sale on your site. I was curious. Was that a pandemic baby? Was that a thing that you...
A little bit.
Yeah?
Yeah, I kind of started it before because of my kid. At the time, she was 4 years old and preschool. And like,
you were like, you think you're good?
Yeah. Step aside.
Yeah, watch this.
Watch this. But she's finger painting, crayons, the whole 9 yards. And it's like, you're going to do that with your kid. And then in the process of doing that with my kid, I was like, my brain just went to that space of like, why do we ever stop doing this? And also, why do we perceive this as childish? This is like kind of the first thing that you really do in school is like enjoy your creativity and relish it and showcase it. And we all support it massively with kids. And I was just like, this doesn't seem like a childish thing. This feels like a therapeutic thing. Like when a kid is having a tantrum, sometimes what if we get out some crayons and cut? Like it's literally an activity that kind of settles the mind and allows this, sort of right brain release in a way. And so doing that with her, I was like, we should be doing this all the time. And then I just kind of advanced that to going, yeah, it just occurred to me, I'm an adult and I can go buy a canvas and I can go buy paint and paintbrushes and I can attempt to just participate in this activity.
Yeah.
And I don't think we look at an art supply store that way. I think we look at it, that's where teachers go and buy their things that they need for the class. And I did that and it wasn't good for a long time. And then I kind of had stopped and then COVID happened and my dad passed away and I came back from the funeral and it was during COVID. So, in LA, we were extreme about the precautions. And so I felt like, hey, I don't want to like immediately come back and be around my family, even though this devastating moment has occurred.
Yeah.
I'm too concerned, just because it was early into COVID. We didn't know enough. So I was sort of isolated for like 9 days. And in that space, my friend Brian had set out a canvas and like some paint, like almost like, hey, he's a professional artist. And he was like, hey, I've set this up and, maybe there's a space where that's something you do. And I loved it. And also someone had already set it up where I was like, oh, this is so convenient too. It's already like here. And then it just grew from there. And I mean, I enjoy it anyways. So it's just become, I think anyone could do it. I think maybe there's a little artistic eye to things.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of jobs that repetition, if you're focused, you're going to improve at it and learn how to do it. It just is. That's just how things are.
Yeah. Do you feel like you found there to be similarities between the art of stand-up comedy and painting?
Yes, 100%. It's changed my mental perception of stand-up and acting as well. Because with a painting, you can map out where you want it to go and you can do all that thing. And I think that's what keeps a lot of people from even trying it. Because they're like, do you paint? Like, I don't even know what I would paint. Instead of letting that question be answered once you've already taken 5 steps forward, then go, oh, I think I'm making this.
Right.
Like in a joke where you go, oh, actually, I think I'm saying this and I didn't realize it. And I think I'm gonna focus on the point that I now realize I'm making. Yes. Or the funny thing that, I mean, I know that you and I have both experienced this. You've said something on stage that you didn't think twice about. Yes. And it got this massive laugh. And your brain was like, wait, I didn't even think that was a joke. Yeah. But then, of course, we act like, well, of course. Of course, I'm a genius. I said this funny thing.
Yes.
Exactly.
Once again.
And then we go back and we go, well, now that's in the show. That's a permanent thing in the show. But then it also makes you go, oh, wait. because that thing I thought wasn't a thing ended up being a thing, this is a tag for that thing that I would have never noticed had people not laughed at it. But what had to happen was you saying it.
Well, therein lies the callback to jazz.
Yeah.
Which we were talking about earlier.
Right,
Which is like, you have to play the notes in that sequence for whatever reason on that night to know, oh, that's an interesting sequence of notes.
Yeah, right. You've got to make, with painting, you've got to make a choice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I tell people that say, I try to really push people to like go buy like a 30 by 30 canvas and like just some random paint brushes and know that you feel like you're the idiot at the store because you're like, I don't even know what things are. And I'm always tell people like, go find acrylics, pick out 5 colors, even if it's like, yeah, these are all just primary. There's nothing exciting about it. Just do that. Grab primary colors. Yeah. Grab 3 different types of brushes, ones that you think are interesting. Don't even worry if it's like what you should actually get.
Yeah, sure.
And then go home, and instead of thinking about what you should paint, out of those 5 colors, just quickly think of the one that you're most drawn to, and with your hands, smear that color on the canvas, and now accept that a choice has been made and we can only move forward from here.
That's right.
But this hand, like let's say it's red, that might not be visible in the final piece.
Right.
But you've got to like get going. And to answer your question with the longest version of an answer possible, that to me is stand up. It's like, I want to talk about something serious. I want to talk about the things I'm scared about. But I don't know if that's funny. And I'll never get there if I don't just go up on stage and say, I am terrified of this election.
Yes.
And now you go, everyone's going to go, and you know it, everyone's going to go, all right, go on. Because you're probably going to say exactly what I'm thinking and feeling. And you go, maybe. But now that I've said I'm terrified of this election, as you and I both know, the nature of our brains is going to go, tell them why you're scared. And then you're going to go, and now here's why. And you might get to your 5th sentence.
Yeah.
That becomes that thing that gets that huge laugh. And then you just go, I think I got a new bit. And it came from the truth. It came from me just telling straight up the truth. Yeah. And also, if you get to the end of it and you don't get a laugh, you haven't lost anyone in that audience, because everyone in that audience would be like, I didn't laugh at the end, but I got to tell you what, it's fucking engaging.
Totally.
I was interested.
It really goes back to a thing that you and I came up in, which is improv.
Right, yeah.
Which is the same idea, which is I did college improv, and it's just, if people aren't familiar with improv, but it's like the premise of improv, of theatrical improv, is you say yes and to whatever your scene partner is saying.
Yes.
So it's someone says, so I'm riding this boat, and then you say yes, and also the boat can fly, and next thing you know, you're in a flying boat.
Yeah.
And then you find a scene from there.
Yeah.
But it's like, that is true in painting, and it's true in stand-up, and it's true in improv, and it's true in like almost any art form.
Yeah.
And
I think so.
For me, it's a guiding principle. Like everything I do, making movies, whatever it is.
You have to, like, a decision and a choice has to get made.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't get made, then nothing can happen.
Yes.
You can't hold yourself back because you're so afraid that choice is going to be wrong. When did you
break through that threshold, though? Because like that's a really hard point to get to. Like it took me years before I was comfortable being like, yes, and this.
I did a docu-special in 2018 that came out in 2021. And I did 6 straight nights in Atlanta, fully improvised each night, an hour, 6 nights in a row. And it came out of that. Everything that I've just said about the vulnerability and the truth and all that, like that was a revelation for me. You know, I was wildly nervous the whole time. I initially booked these shows and said tickets are $5 because I want it to be an amount I can give back to the audience. I'm not here to make money. I am legitimately here to more than likely fail. I assumed I would, but I wanted to just see if I could do it, because I knew that I improvised. I knew that I played. I knew that if I could find a wave, I knew I could surf it. I just don't know how to generate the waves if I'm not coming into it with the preconceived topics and the conversation. So I booked those shows, and I didn't intend to film it. I just told Jay Larson about it, and he goes, well, you have to get a camera crew and film that. And then, Abso Productions, they, Dave Kneebone was like, yeah, we'll give you a little bit of money to get cameras and pay for it. And, it wasn't wildly expensive. And so then Scott Moran and my buddy John, we just went and did it and shot it. And that week was this revelation to what I just said before of, just tell the truth. Tell something vulnerable. You won't lose them. If you can't think of something funny, it's like, well, then tell them a secret you kind of don't want to tell them.
Right.
What embarrasses you? Just say it and see if it's funny. See if it can be funny. And I got to say, over the week, the very first night, I was like, oh, this is really fun. My intention that week truly was, I'm going to improvise on Monday. If there's bits I like, I'm allowed to bring them in on Tuesday and try to get them together, thinking by Saturday, let's see if I have something that's kind of 60 minutes and be like, in 1 week, did I come up with a special that like is passable? I didn't think it'd be great, but it will be passable. And people go, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then be like, yeah, I mean, if I go 2 more months, I could maybe if I really try it like this, I could maybe hammer it together. Monday night was so much fun of making all of it up that we would interview me after shows and the next day. And the next day I said, I got to be honest. I go, everything that worked last night, I don't care. I want to make it all up again. Oh, it was such a high. And that thing that we do Monday night, crushed it. Tuesday, let's do that again. Yeah. Tuesday, okay show.
Yeah.
Wednesday, being funny, but then couldn't think of what to say next and just told the crowd that I've watched gay porn before. And people laughed, but then also were like, in what context? I was like, oh, this is a topic. And then I kind of was like, oh, well, we're talking about sex stuff. Let's keep going. And a lot of the sex stuff that's in that special is filmed. The birth of the joke is like on tape. Like, this is where I just said the thing about a gangbang. It's just like, here, I just said a thing that is a real thought. But if you're telling me there's traction there, sure, I'll try to make that a bigger joke later on. By Saturday, I was so comfortable on stage with nothing and just going up with the idea that I was like, I'm funny. I wouldn't be in this job. I wouldn't be able to buy groceries if I wasn't funny.
Right.
So I can get past, to answer your question, I am now able to get past the idea, but am I funny? Where do I stand in this business? In the lineup of all of the comics that are currently working today, where do I think I fall? Have I done the Tonight Show yet? Right. Have I done this yet? I put out a special, but only so many people saw it, and it didn't move the needle the way I thought it would. And I've acted in stuff, and I thought that would make me America's darling. Here's this new guy. All of the things that we sort of fantasize about in our head. This moment in time in Atlanta doing this made me go, fuck all of your hopes and dreams about what you think this is, and have the most joy in your life knowing you are funny. So just go do that and quit trying to force a career and just go, not everybody gets to be funny, and know how good that feels. Yeah. Why can't that be enough? It's brought me paychecks. Yeah. So why don't we just be grateful for that? And it's not that the hopes and the dreams and that little bit of like, healthy jealousy, that doesn't go away, but it did make me go, let's just fucking calm down about what we want our career to be and be fun and funny. And by that last show of that week, I just went up and was like, you're here. I'm here. This is what I literally, the way you open that show, and you're like, you guys are here. We're all here. But literally, that is the moment you say that, I go, of everything he might talk about tonight, I relate to that in such a way, because that's how I like feeling at a show. And he just said the same thing that I fully agree with.
Oh, I love
that. We're all here. So let's not worry about what's beyond these walls just for the next 60 to 90 minutes. Yeah. Let's just be in this. And it just felt very comforting. It felt like I was finally becoming an artist as opposed to just a comic.
I love that. So this is called a slow round.
Are my answers too long? I ask this in every interview I ever do.
We have to ask you to leave now because the answers are too long.
We didn't ask for a dissertation.
This is the slow round. What are people's favorite and least favorite things about you?
That's a great question. And you just mean any people?
Yeah.
Any people at all?
Yeah, or just like, and also just friends, family.
I maybe people's favorite thing or something that they like about me is maybe the levity. I don't like to take things too serious. Not that I don't, but I don't like that to be, prevalent. I don't like to lead with that.
Yeah.
We all know the world's heavy, no matter what you do. Probably the levity and then also the levity. I think it's actually for both. So people are like, you know what, you're a little bit of a clown.
Right.
You could take things a little more serious.
Right. Let's rein it in a little bit. Yeah.
And I think both of those are probably my wife. My wife has to exist in both those spaces.
Can you think of a time where you were bringing too much levity and it's like it actually was not appropriate for the situation?
I think this relates, but as a kid, I was an altar. Were you an altar server?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was an altar server, and we got to get out of school whenever there was like the funeral, and you got $15. And I'll never forget that
funeral money.
Me and my buddy Archie Gallivan were in the church, and we were out of class to get to do it. And there's a funeral happening. I don't think I've ever even been to a funeral by this point in my life.
Yeah.
And I think I'm like 12 years old. And there's 2 stained glass windows above us, and one of them is Mary holding Jesus.
Yeah.
And then the stained glass next to it is, Mary like sort of presenting to the world, like, arms open. And Archie leans over to me and he goes, doesn't it look like she just dropped Jesus? And because she's like this, and then the next panel is this.
Her arms are open like she dropped Jesus.
And
that's so funny.
I am crying, laughing. And when you try to conceal your laugh, it makes it almost become louder than if you would have just laughed. Yeah. Everyone in the funeral to my right is noticing. The priest is beet red, just like hating us. I know this isn't totally in the ballpark of
when you're being it.
But I could not. The weight of this moment, it didn't matter. I was like, I've looked at that. He is absolutely right, and I cannot stop laughing to the point where he goes, Jesus, dude, you gotta stop.
But it's like. You were laughing because you're dealing with this really large topic, which is you're an altar server at a darn funeral.
At 12.
Yeah, at 12.
And you're sad, but
sad.
You don't understand.
Yeah.
Like I didn't understand what they're going through. I haven't been to a funeral yet. And I my mother passed away when I was very young, but not in a way where I like remember it or like, I was so young. So seeing everyone's grieving was something I couldn't relate to that version of grieving yet. I hadn't lost a grandparent at that point or anyone like of that like familial significance to where even if he would have said that joke, I'd have been like, oh man, these people are crushed. What do we?
Yeah,
we can't be laughing. So I was like, who cares?
Do you have a time you remember feeling pure joy?
Joy and fear the moment I became a dad.
Wow.
Pure joy, realizing the relationship that my daughter and I could work towards once I felt like she registered me as a dad, around 2 years old. When I'm like, you are here all the time. You don't seem to leave. It should just be me and mom. But you keep showing up. That moment of like, I like that you're here. You know what I mean? You finally go like, oh, I think I understand my place now. I'm now being recognized.
I have that sometimes with Oona where we'll be spending time together and I'll realize she's enjoying the time and I'll just literally start crying and she'll just be like, why are you crying?
Yeah. and if you tell her, it's like she might be like, oh, I'm not enjoying it. And you're like, oh God, you ruined it. You can't tell why you're crying. Like, oh, dust. There's dust in here. That probably. And these sound so cliche and sappy, but they are real. Like realizing my wife was also falling in love with me the way that I was like falling in love with, oh, this feels good. This is joy to know that someone is naturally and organically reciprocating that love and emotion that you're putting on them. So probably both of those with my wife and my
What was that moment with your wife?
I don't know if it was specific. I think it was just in a phase of our relationship. I said I love you so fast in our relationship that I kind of was like, oh, I know that I feel that way, but am I the guy that people always talk about? Like, oh, you're too clingy, or you said it too quick, and how could you possibly know? But I didn't know that I felt that way, and maybe I shouldn't have voiced it, but I did. And she even said, she's like, well, I'm not going to say it back to you right now if that's what you're looking for. And I kind of was looking for that, but then I started to really respect that she didn't, and it almost made me be like, you're right, I should earn it. I should, if we're gonna get there, you're right, I shouldn't just because I'm saying it doesn't mean that you should say it. And I don't know that there's a specific moment. Even the moment of her like finally saying I love you was sort of like not even necessary, because you could just feel that we were already there. So I think when you feel like you've found that person, whether it lasts or not, whether you're going to get separated or have a divorce or whatever feelings you might have, I think there's something that when you do feel it, that's when you start to go like, oh, these are the things you can't buy. Yeah. These are the things you have to just hope you fall into, and hope that right place, right time. Also, you have to hope that you've evolved enough as a person to maybe attract someone who might want to like, feel that way with you. And I think that's joy, when you realize that you might be doing life right a little bit.
I've been working on material about drugs, like partly the thing I was telling you about walking by a smoke shop with Oona, right. The Good Life, being like, what's that? And like thinking about how, and I don't even have the joke on this, but it's like an observation I have, which is like every time I try to talk to Oona about big topics, whether it's life, death, drugs, love, whatever the thing is, she's just like, she does not want to talk about it. Just like, what? You know what I mean? Like, and then like gets her attention on something else, which makes sense. That stands to reason. Like if my parents brought up like sensitive subjects with me, I would be like, whatever. Yeah. And so then like, I don't have a joke on this, but it's like, so then inevitably I'm like, she'll find out about all these things from like the other kids at school. And like, those kids are idiots. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like there's got to be some joke in that.
I think there is. And my immediate instinct is, what if you, because in a way she is living the good life by not even knowing what it is.
Oh, that's true.
So if you're like, what is that?
What's
what
the
is
good
a
life?
Smoke shop? And you're like, wait, what's murder? What's joy? You're like, if I don't tell you what any of them are, and you can just stay in this just sort of fog of life where almost like a dog, you just get to be stimulated and not have to think about the future or the past or death or even being alive at all. Maybe your whole life will be just this purely blissful thing.
No, completely.
Like, so anyways, we're not telling her anything, but then you get to the point, but you know who is going to tell her.
Yeah.
These jerks. These kids her age, and they don't know shit.
Yeah. They don't know anything. And then for me, growing up, it was like the DARE program, right? Which is an acronym, if people aren't familiar, in the 80s for like drug abuse resistance education, which feels like it was written by someone on drugs.
Yeah.
It's like, drug abuse.
Here's the
resistance.
All right, look, it's got to be 4 words. We know that much. What we do know is it has to be 4 words. It doesn't have to be completely relevant.
It should have the word drug in it.
It should start with drug.
Drug something.
Because it's drugs.
Yeah. It should be something with drugs, and then...
Yeah. ARE, what do we got? I want to see show of hands.
And then to add insult to injury, like they come to class and then it's a police officer going, "We dare you not to use." And you're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, dare us not to do drugs.
So we shouldn't do them. You're saying don't do it.
And also, like, when have you ever been dared not to do something?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like we're wildly confused as kids. And then, and by the way, like, I hadn't considered using drugs before that point. You know what I mean? So then I'm like, maybe I should.
Never being dared to do so, not to do something. Like, truth or dare? Dare. All right, I dare you to never tell the truth. Like, oh, that's great. That seems way easier.
That's really funny.
Oh, you mean lie all the time? Like, yeah, it seems great.
Truth or dare? Dare. I dare you not to use drugs.
Yeah. Oh, all right.
Yeah, I'm not.
Wait, do you
I'm
have
not.
them? And it's like a challenge?
Yeah.
Like, here's a slice of pizza. I know you're hungry. I dare you to not eat it. It's like, oh.
Well,
I dare you to eat it.
It's such a completely ridiculous concept. And then I, as a kid, it's like it was the first time I'd even considered using drugs.
Or like, even knew what they were.
Yeah. And then they were like, people might come up to you and be like, you should try crank or boomers or angel dust. And I was like, angel dust? I was like, angel dust, you say? Like, I was like a 6th grade altar boy. Yeah. And I was just like, that sounds perfect.
Yeah.
Like, I shall take the angel dust and soar to the heavens beside my Lord Jesus Christ. No, it does. It literally, like, I was thinking about the name clearly was created by someone on angel dust.
Yeah.
Because it's too good. It's not like some Pfizer reps. Yeah. We're just like, what about angel dust? You know what I mean?
Yeah. What about pixie dust? No. No. It's been used. Angel dust. Similar. But real. We know angels are real. Pixies are not real. Angels are real.
The logic of that DARE program is so confusing.
Yeah.
So utterly confusing what the logic was there.
We had it at our school.
Yeah.
And it was Officer Butler.
Yep.
And, she taught us stuff. She would play kickball with us at recess.
Nice.
And I later found out she was no longer a police officer because she murdered her husband. And this
interview's over.
That woman, that officer, just didn't think we should do drugs. And I gotta say, the moment I found out, I really went, I bet some of the drugs are, I bet she was wrong about some of the drugs.
Right. I mean, or I bet she was wrong about some of the drugs. It made me second guess everything I had been taught.
I bet pot's okay.
Oh my God.
She can't be 100% right and a murderer.
And also, like, was she on drugs when she murdered her husband?
Yeah.
That's another bit.
Yeah, will we ever get to know that part of it?
Yeah.
Pretty bizarre.
That's a wild one. When did she murder her husband? After you were out of school?
Well, Well,
years
after
later?
someone's like, I ran into someone from school and they're like, this is what her life became.
Right.
Like, holy shit, that's insane.
Oh, you know what program she should have been in? We dare you not to murder your husband.
We dare you not to be a murderer. Oh yeah. Dare to keep kids off murder. Like, you can try. You can try to keep me off it.
They're gonna offer you street murders. Yeah. They're gonna offer you house murders. Yeah. You say no.
All right, look. It's dare, it's 4 words, and it's about murder. And I know there's already no M in there to even play with. This won't be easy.
So it's D-murder.
Yeah, D-murder is opposite of murder.
D-murder about remittance every time.
D-murder about remittance every time. Okay, no. We got, all right, everyone really push here. We got the weekend. By Monday, everyone needs to have 5.
By Monday, we need a draft.
We need a draft.
We dare you not to try murder.
Yeah, don't murder anybody. And go get out there in the world, but don't murder people.
Oh, my God. Do you have new bits you're working on that are sort of premises, observations?
What's fun is I'm in that new space of trying to figure out what I am gonna do.
Yeah.
So I do have some ideas, but I've gone on stage and just played with them a little bit. One I have is people who always want you to know they're good at history in a way where they just feel the need to drop it. And I don't have, it's like literally I just go on stage and try it. And this will make sense. The variables of it, I'm like, this could be funnier if I really sat and thought about it. But it's like when someone says, hey, do you remember where Grandma and Grandpa lived back in Iowa? And they're like, well, let me see. Kennedy died in 1963. And it hasn't, but they just need you to know I'm informed of things. There's probably better examples into it, but that one
World War II started in 1939.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And it was because of
late 40s, probably.
So the axis of evil is this, and I think what happened, that's
America entered in 42. So I think it was Westwood Road.
I think, Cedar Rapids. It was Cedar Rapids. And so by then they would have been in Cedar Rapids. So that's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's a great bit. I think that's a great premise.
One that's really fun is, thank you. One that's really fun is I get the crowd singing. I'm like, do you guys know that song? Like, oh, what a night, late December back in, and I get the whole, back in 1963, what a very special time. I forget everyone's singing. And what a lady, what a night. Kennedy was just assassinated less than a month ago.
Oh my God.
This guy's out living it up, finding the love of his life. And the world just changed drastically less than a month ago. He says late December. It's pre-Christmas. This isn't New Year's Eve. He would have said that.
Right, he's time-stamping precisely when this love...
Late December, back in 1963. I feel like it's more mid-December. It hasn't even been 4 weeks since a brutal assassination. And people wondering, who did it? Like, who was there a plot?
But also,
what's up?
That's so funny. Was there a plot? What's up?
Yeah.
And also, you're the history guy in this story.
Yeah.
You've become the guy in your first bit.
Right. Yes, exactly.
Of calling out history.
Yes.
So maybe there's something there.
Great. The connection
those
of those
could
two.
merge.
Yeah. You're exactly right.
Because you could start reeling off potentially like different songs and historical events that coincided. You know, Summer of 69 is like that. You could do Bryan Adams.
Summer
of 69.
Right.
I'm sure some horrific thing happened in
you just keep going. You're just like, Robert Kennedy just died. It's always a Kennedy related moment.
I love that. It's so funny.
I also try to like sprinkle in like in the late December bang, like Kennedy just died. Like, could you imagine it's, October of 2001 and people are like, they think bin Laden did it. And they're like, yeah. I think I've met the one. You're like, oh, you're out and about? Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you met the one? I've been going on some dates, like, really, right now. Oh right now, you're out there. Yeah, just trying to meet people.
Oh, and also, like, you have to imagine, like, the Kennedy family just, like, in the car being like, oh, what a night. And then it's like, late December. That date doesn't sit quite right.
Well, it was just before Thanksgiving. Change the station. Go AM. Let's go AM for a little bit. This is usually the starting point for a lot of my stuff where I'll do these things now and play with them more and more, and it really will sometimes take 3 to 5 years before it's really like, and that goes right there, and now it's a 2-minute thing. You know what I mean? Already just linking the Kennedy 63 history buff.
Yeah.
Already that's like, all right, now there's a little bit of meat to it to like extend a little bit.
Yeah, I love that. I always say to people in my live shows, I'm like, you might come see me in 6 months or a year, and you go, that got better. That's funnier. I go, but inevitably, you'll see something tonight that you'll be like, what happened to that? That joke, that story. And the answer is gone. And it's gone. And the reason it's gone is because of you.
Yeah.
So I want you to consider that as
you and your peers
what to laugh at.
You and your peers decided it wasn't going to Hollywood.
That's right.
You voted it off the show.
Yeah. All right. The final thing we do is called Working It Out for a Cause, and we contribute to a nonprofit that you think is doing a good job.
Oh, all right. I have always been a fan of St. Jude Children's Hospital.
Yes,
I've toured it in Memphis, Tennessee. I've played in their golf events to raise money, and I've always loved the idea that all of these children and their families will never be faced with some catastrophic bill
Yes.
When they find out, horrific news about what their child may have to go through, and then they themselves. And I just love that. I wish more things existed that way. But something I loved the most about that hospital was that all of the desks and chairs and everything were kid level, so that when kids came in, they didn't feel like they were entering into a space that was for adults. They came into a space where they felt like, oh, this is like for me, like anything to make them feel comfortable. And when someone shows you that and teaches you that and explains the stories of these families and these kids, like it makes you go, all right, you guys are doing great. I can get behind this pretty easily.
I was a tough customer on this place.
I gotta tell you,
you've won me over.
I gotta tell you,
I was skeptical.
I'm still
of this children's
concerned
thing that y'all are doing.
Can I tell you something? I thought it was a hospital run by children. So now I like it.
St. Jude's, we're contributing. We'll link to them in the show notes. Rory, thanks for coming by. It's such an honor.
Yeah,
I love your comedy so much.
Thanks, man. Same. I appreciate it.
All right.